Hello, James.
Hello.
So, I'm Valentin. I'm the maintainer of the programming idioms.org website. Some of you may have seen this website, which contains many snippets written in many programming languages. So, here, for example, test for type extension, or another one, random swap two values. What is the correct way to swap two values in your favorite programming language? Um, and I'm looking for a developer in the Kotlin language. I think you have such a skill in your resume, Kotlin product manager at Google.
That's right. Yeah, I was over with you in Google Cloud for 3 years and just joined
That's
the
right.
Android team to become the Kotlin product manager.
Amazing. That is exciting news. Congrats.
Thanks. Yeah, it's going to be fun.
So, I have a few important Kotlin related questions for you.
Yes.
First, Kotlin is based on Java and the JVM, is that right?
Yeah, so it really started as a Java++, a better Java language. That was its roots, but it's actually expanded since its inception to address other platforms. And this is
Oh,
kind of a newer piece of Kotlin is called Kotlin Multiplatform. So while the initial focus of it was running on the JVM, now you can
mhm.
actually write Kotlin and transpile or target other platforms. And so there's different ways that that's done depending on the platform. But you can target web, so it's cross compiling to
Yeah.
JavaScript, and they're also working on WASM support for that. It can target iOS through a LLVM based cross compiler, and let's see what else. They do desktop Kotlin, but that actually today still uses the JVM. So you're building
Yeah.
desktop applications, but it bundles the JVM into a desktop application. And then the Kotlin native project, which is what's actually used for the iOS piece, can target other native platforms as well. And I think that that's primarily because LLVM can target many platforms. But I think the primary case for Kotlin native today is iOS. So,
Yeah.
anyways, it was just it
No,
started
that's
as,
great.
as a JVM based language, but now has expanded beyond that.
Yeah, I heard about all those new ways of expanding the Kotlin platform beyond its initial limits last month, and the slide was full of all these native things and web things. Very exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that
So,
we've had long had the dream that we could use one programming language everywhere, and yeah, Kotlin multi-platform is giving that a go. So we'll see how that goes. I actually just finished writing building a little experimental application that uses Kotlin to target all those different platforms. So I've got of course, the Android client, I've got the iOS client, got the web client, got the desktop client, got a CLI client,
nice.
and Kotlin on the server. So Kotlin in about as many places. I guess I need to do like a Raspberry Pi or something too. So, but yeah, it's interesting and exciting, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah. So, Kotlin initially based on Java and the JVM. Does that mean that all of the features of Java are automatically available in Kotlin?
Yeah, exactly. Because if you're doing Kotlin for the JVM, then you have full interoperability with Java, and so that means that you're able to take advantage of the library ecosystem that exists in Java and build on top of that. And so one of the core language design pieces of Kotlin that is interesting is they wanted to be able to take a JVM library and enhance it for Kotlin and make it better in certain ways. So an example of this is collections. So the Kotlin doesn't actually have its own collections API on the JVM. You just use Java collections, the out of the box Java collections API.
Yeah.
But then there's extension methods, which are or extension functions are one of the key features of Kotlin, which allow you to have additional functionality on top of the Java collections. But it just does that by adding new functions to the existing collections APIs.
That's awesome. So you have all of Java plus all of the new exciting Kotlin specific features.
That's right, exactly. So Java plus plus.
Great. Would you say that the most idiomatic Kotlin code always targets the latest stable version, for example, 1.6, or that idiomatic code depends a lot on the target Kotlin version? Should we be very careful about staying backward compatible with older versions of the language?
Yeah, I think what's happened is there actually hasn't been a lot of language changes in the last couple major versions of Kotlin. A
Hmm.
lot of the major version changes have actually been underlying changes. There's been a number of pieces happening to change the compiler infrastructure. There's the front end compiler, which takes the language and compiles it down into some intermediate representation. On the JVM, it's bytecode. In the world of Kotlin for the web, it actually compiles down into a intermediate representation that then gets compiled down into JavaScript, and LLVM bytecode is being another way that happens. So there's been a lot of work on kind of the infrastructure, compiler infrastructure underneath Kotlin. But from the language side of things, there actually hasn't been a lot of change in the language side that I've seen over the last couple major versions. It's really been kind of a lot of internal work. So I think one nice thing about that is it does make it a lot easier to migrate to newer versions and
Hmm.
upgrade without breaking things. What I haven't seen is interop issues that you get with some other platforms. So I do a lot with Scala as well, and with
Hmm.
Scala there is a lot more challenges for libraries that are built against a specific version of Scala and then have to be rebuilt for a new version of Scala. And so that's been one of the
Yeah,
challenges with
forward
Scala is,
compatibility is usually fine.
yeah,
But let's
yeah,
say I want to create from a fresh start, a popular library in Kotlin. Is it fine that I just say let's go with Kotlin 1.6 and all of the clients will need Kotlin 1.6 plus, or should I be careful and say let's make an effort to use fewer shiny new features to make sure that I'm also compatible with clients who are still using Kotlin 1.2. I have no idea if it's
yeah.
frequent or not, but how would I deal with this problem?
Yeah, from what I've seen, the library authors don't have to be as worried about this in Kotlin as they do in other languages. And I don't totally understand the mechanics of how that works,
Hmm.
but there's a lot of I think maybe it's just like the language churn has not made it so you have to be really careful with how you use new features. From what I've seen, people use new features and they just work in older versions, but maybe there's some
Wow,
yeah,
that's
maybe
amazing.
there's yeah, I don't know how that works, but I've there've been projects where I've mixed and matched versions, like libraries built with older versions, my
Hmm.
code built with newer versions, and I haven't run into the interoperability issues that I've seen in other languages. And
Maybe the
maybe I
JVM
just
does
have,
all the magic.
yeah, or maybe I just have gotten lucky. But yeah, I'd be interested to hear from users who have gone further and library authors, if they've had challenges. But like Spring Framework supports Kotlin, one of the in Spring Boot. So one of the really primary ways that enterprises build their applications is with Spring,
Yeah,
and Spring, it now uses Kotlin 1.6, the latest version, and there was no, as far as I know, there was no challenges with people who are on older versions of Kotlin consuming that, and so
Wow,
I need to
that's
research
fascinating.
more
I have no
how the
idea
mechanics of
how.
that work. But
Yeah, how does it work? Yeah,
yeah,
that's nice. Um, so there's now a backlog page for the contributions on programming idioms, and there is one of this page for each available language. So I think you have it open in your web browser. Let's see.
yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
this one. So the community backlog for Kotlin, it will ask you if you happen to be a Kotlin developer for expert validation, like some other people have contributed these snippets. Does it look good to you? And maybe this one is missing a documentation link or an online playground link, so we can improve all of this.
nice.
Yes. So
Oh, that's cool.
take the first one, for example. Can you read it aloud? It's a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is idiom 157, which is
Yes.
declare constant string. And the description says initialize a constant planet with a string value earth. And
Okay.
so this is an interesting one to talk about. Do you want to dive
Mhm.
into it?
Yeah, let's go.
So actually, I don't know what this constant keyword. I know that this is like going to tax some of my knowledge on
Mhm.
Java JVM stuff, but I think Java does have this. I mean, it must have this constant keyword, um, but actually don't know what that actually means in this context, because val is actually an immutable value in
Mhm.
Kotlin. And so
Oh,
in other languages, const is used to indicate immutability, but in Kotlin, val is used to indicate immutability. And maybe const in this case would do something else. I'm not totally sure. Sometimes some of this language stuff like has a meaning if you then use this from the Java side of things
yeah.
or not. So maybe that's what that would be used for. But if the goal here is just immutability, then val is actually sufficient. And we can actually go over into the Kotlin playground
Yeah,
and
let's
go
do it.
go check that
Also,
out.
just
Yeah.
if you go back to the idiom page,
Yes.
you can click the button View Full Idiom just above
Okay.
there,
Yep.
so
Let's
we
go
can
check that
see
out.
if okay. Right now there exists only one contributed Kotlin implementation. Sometimes we have several of them, and it's fine. But here that's the only one we have, which combines the keyword const and the keyword val. And I
Yeah.
have a question for you. If I just write some Java code, is it valid Kotlin code or not exactly?
Not exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So there are definitely some differences in the syntax. So, for
Okay.
example, this the in Kotlin the type parameters go on the right hand
Mm-hmm.
side, whereas in Java, for the most part, there are some newer syntax things in Java, but in Java. The default syntax is you declare something with its type before the identifier,
Yeah.
and so this um, yeah, I mean, we could go in and see what would happen, but I think generally Kotlin and Java are two different languages. They
Yeah.
look very similar in a lot of ways,
Makes
and there's
sense.
a lot of there is a lot of similarities, but there are some differences where it's not like like TypeScript, I think, is or like works as JavaScript, right? Like I think in
Mm-hmm.
generally you can take TypeScript and actually evaluate it as JavaScript, and that works. And that's not the case with Kotlin. Kotlin is a different language.
Okay, I see. So you have a little button to copy the whole snippet, and let's try to paste it in the
Okay,
Kotlin playground.
let's give this a try.
I'll keep the print. We will need it.
Yeah. There we go. Okay. So so I again I don't know the details on that const keyword. I haven't used that in Kotlin, and it's been a long time since I've used that in Java. So I would say that generally if for just an immutable value, you
Yeah.
should be fine just to say val planet. Um, and then there's the type parameter there, which
Yeah,
Kotlin, one of the nice things about it is that it actually supports type inference. And so we
very
can actually,
nice.
if we want to, just remove that, and the type is inferred because of the value there. So this should actually work. We should be able to
Let's
run
try.
this and
And
see.
it
Yep.
did. Well
Yay.
done. So you
So
said with val, it should be already immutable. What
that's
happens if
right.
you try to mutate it? Let's go.
So let's try it. So let's say planet equals and set a new value. So this should actually not compile. And there we go. Val
Indeed.
cannot be reassigned. If we change this
So,
to a var,
yeah,
then it
var
is
is variable.
mutable.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so those are that's the new keywords. Oh, we even get a planet initializer is redundant. I don't know what that.
That's just a warning. You did mutate
Oh,
successfully the variable.
yeah, yeah. Um, so yeah, I here's one of the interesting idiom things that we can talk about with Kotlin is actually when I my path to Kotlin started long ago with Java. And in Java, I didn't know about concepts like immutability, but I moved from Java to Scala. And that's
Yeah.
where I started learning about immutability and functional programming. And so now when I write code, I bring a lot of the Scala idioms to how I write Kotlin. So I never actually use vars in Kotlin. I try to do
Hmm.
everything with immutability. And
Yeah.
so yeah, my Kotlin code is written in a very immutable functional style, and that's just
Yeah,
from
yeah.
my experience with Scala.
I really love the concept of immutability by default, which exists in Rust, I think, and I kind of miss it in Go, but Go is
Yeah,
different.
yep, exactly. Yeah, that's
Oh,
I've written a decent amount of Go, and immutability is definitely one of the things where I miss that when I've written Go code. It's just I know you can do it. It's just not kind of the
yeah,
standard idiom of the
exactly.
language. Yeah.
So here I can see two obvious improvements that you just did. First, the const keyword is kind of redundant in that use case, so I suggest we just remove it and keep val, and val already conveys immutability. And you mentioned type inference, and because of the double quotes, planet is obviously a string, so we don't need to write string. And correct me if I'm wrong, it's even more idiomatic to leave it out because it's inferred. So it's shorter, more concise, and
Yeah.
everyone's happy. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, I very rarely specify the type definitions
Mm-hmm.
on values. If I have a function, which will I'm sure get into in a little bit, but if I have a function, I definitely every function specifies the types of its input parameters and
Oh,
output
yes.
parameters.
That's a
Um,
different kind of animal. Yes.
that's right. And you I think Kotlin even forces you to do that. I'm pretty
That's
sure it
great.
does. But on values, I very rarely will specify the type parameters on those.
Okay, amazing. Here is what I suggest. Let's use this knowledge to edit this implementation. We will remove the const keyword. We will
Do I need
remove
an
the
account to edit the
Oh
implementation?
no,
No,
like
just come
everyone,
in.
you can
Okay.
just edit and go for it. You'll
All
provide
right.
a nickname at some point, but no account
Cool.
needed, no password,
Well, let's just
no
try it.
nonsense.
Let's see what happens here.
Okay.
Okay. So just do that.
Okay, this is a very good first step. Yes, you need to provide a summary. Why? So just write a concise or whatever you
Var
think,
concise. There we go.
and a username. You pick whatever you like.
Okay.
Amazing. Save. And that is great. This
Boom.
is
All right.
your first contribution. Thank you
Yay.
so much. And
Nice.
because we already have a tab open on the Kotlin Playground, I suggest we even add a runnable demo using a URL to the Kotlin Playground. Can we
Oh,
do this
sure.
together?
Yep.
Okay, so
Let's do
let's
it.
go to the Kotlin Playground. That's already in your
Yep.
web browser. We can remove the first lines of guidance. We don't need them before the main fun.
Okay.
And yeah, I think it looks good. Would you leave an empty line just after the func main, or is it usually, or do you usually
I,
start?
I
No, it
think we could
depends.
go. I think maybe for this, we
Because it's
just go with,
short.
yeah, yeah, we just go with
Okay,
that.
let's run it.
Okay.
Earth, that's where we live, indeed.
Yep.
Can we now share code?
Okay. Let that button to share the code. Okay.
Um, or maybe copy link. Copy link is maybe
Okay.
what we're
Copy
looking
link.
for.
Okay.
Yes,
Copied.
and then
Okay.
we can paste it in the runnable demo field.
So we'll go back to edit the implementation
Yes.
and
So you see a few
the
fields here.
online runnable demo here.
Yes.
Okay.
And a summary that says demo
Add
URL. Yeah.
demo.
Amazing.
Okay. Save that.
This
And maybe
means,
I'm wrong
yeah.
about the const thing, and maybe there is some reason to have that, and then somebody else can go edit this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Please feel free if you're watching this video and you're like, no, this is not the correct, valid idiomatic handling way to just prove us wrong. Add a link to a documentation that says otherwise. Change the snippet, change the demo link. You can do it, no problem.
Yeah.
And also, if you don't trust us that the val keyword does convey immutability, then don't take our word for it. Click the demo link, try it by yourself. That's what playgrounds are for.
That's right. Yeah, and they can just now hit this demo button, and it'll
Yes,
take us right into
it
the
should.
Kotlin
Yeah.
playground.
Okay, amazing.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much, James.
Love it.
So if you scroll down a little bit in the community backlog page, yes,
Yes.
just scroll down a little bit more. So docs and demo. Here are examples of existing Kotlin contribution which are missing a documentation link. So
Okay.
here we have 3 of them, but we'll just tackle one for now.
Yeah.
Would you say it makes sense to try to find a documentation link for a documentation page that says how multi-line string literals
I
are
I
supposed to
am
work?
gonna guess that there is a
Yeah,
documentation page for this. So let's see. Kotlin multi-line string. If there is not a documentation page on this, that would be surprising.
kotlinlang.org, that looks good.
Yeah, that looks right. So let's see. This is the main
So,
string, and here we
yeah,
go. Use multi-line strings.
yes.
So here is our,
Sextuple quotes, triple double
yep,
quotes.
yep, yeah,
Amazing.
yeah. And then you'll see, I don't know, why does it say, oh, Java text blocks appear. So this is actually talking about Java, not Kotlin. And then this one is the Kotlin example here. So,
Maybe it's not a bug, maybe it's a feature that
oh,
kotlinlang.org provides some general Java documentation for what is not specific to Kotlin and is common between the two languages.
yeah. So this is in actually the Java to Kotlin migration
Oh,
guide.
I see.
And I don't think that's where we would want to really
Ideally not.
take people. Like it'd be interesting to see, all right, if we go into like basic syntax,
We
is
should
there going
have
to be like
a,
a
yeah,
string syntax or something? I think
there's
the
a
Google
search
search did
button.
not take us to the place that I would kind of expect
Yeah.
us to
However, if
go
I'm
to.
not wrong, kotlinlang.org is a website maintained by JetBrains themselves, and so we can regard this documentation website as authoritative enough. Is that right?
Yep. Yeah, and here we go.
Okay.
I found the under concepts, types,
Yes.
basic types, and strings, and that I think this is going to be the best place to send people because it
Yes.
does
Please
have the
keep the
triple
anchor.
quoted.
Very important.
Okay, so let's go now. Add a doc link to this one, right?
Yes, please do.
And
That would be
documentation
documentation.
URL. There we go.
Okay, cool.
And add doc link. Okay, and hit save.
Well, thank you so much. That is your
Okay,
second important contribution today.
awesome.
So in the original page, the backlog, yes, if you scroll down to the bottom, you have missing implementation, some concepts that don't have yet in this website
Okay.
an implementation in Kotlin. Would you try to have a go at one of these three?
Oh, this will be fun. Let's look through these. Okay. Declare a real variable with at least 20 digits. I'm going to have to do some
That
research on that one.
sounds a little bit like big integers, no, big floats. What's the
Yeah.
Java class for this?
It probably would be whatever the Java one is what we
Yes,
would end up
probably.
putting in there. Let's see. Let's read through these other ones and see if anything else
Yeah.
looks more interesting. Okay, timeout. Cancel an ongoing processing P if it is not finished after a certain amount of time. That one could be an interesting exploration.
Yes, for some uh, definition of a process P,
Yeah.
which is a little bit language specific. It depends.
Yeah. And then this other one here is iterate over characters of a string, and that one, I think that one is the easiest, or well, maybe not the easiest, but I kind of have an idea for how to do that one. The other ones we'll
Yes.
have to do some Googling to get there. But
Yeah.
the timeout one to me it would be the most interesting, but I
Yeah.
may not actually be able to do it in a reasonable amount of time. But
Here
would
what
be
I suggest.
interested in giving it a try.
Yeah, let's try the very last one, the one iterating over characters. If you view the full
Okay.
idiom, maybe it's already implemented in Java, and that would provide us with some queue. Oh no, it's not. Not yet.
Okay. Well,
Uh,
I think we can try this
yeah.
in Kotlin. I think it'd be
So
fun.
there's a button at the bottom, new implementation, where
Okay.
you can select the language Kotlin.
Okay.
Maybe it's already in the list for you. Yes,
Okay.
it's suggested. Great. And we can try it in the playground to see,
Yeah.
to have it worked even before we contribute the snippet.
Yeah. Okay, so what we are trying to implement is print a line character for each character of the string, and so we want to know the index of that of the character as well. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so let's see. We've got our planet, and you're gonna see me really struggle here because I use IntelliJ
Who doesn't?
for all of my Kotlin and Scala and Java, and I am so dependent on IntelliJ, which I actually have open, and that might be the easiest way to dive into for me to explore
Oh,
this
very
code.
secret stuff on this
I've
screen.
it's just it's the example that I mentioned earlier that is this multi-platform Kotlin project, but this will be maybe an easy way to start playing around with some code.
Sure.
And then we'll pop it into the play
Yeah,
the
let's do
playground
this.
there. Okay, so let's write just a function to have. Actually, we can easiest way to do this. Yeah, we'll just write a function. And it is going to, there's a couple different ways actually to define functions in Kotlin. And one of the ways we can do it is kind of an expression oriented definition, but I think I'm not actually going to do it that way, which is, so we'll just do this like this. Okay. So actually, and it's telling IntelliJ is telling me I don't need to put unit. Unit means it doesn't return anything, and if I don't
Oh,
return anything,
interesting.
I just don't have to say anything. Okay, so let's create our value, which is our planet, which is Earth, and then we're going to iterate through the characters. So let's say planet dot, and let's see what methods we get here. So I can do dot chars. So let's see,
Yeah,
where's
it looks
chars,
good.
or I can do a char array. Um,
So in
so
stream, that's
in
an interesting
string,
one. Does the stream provide the index and the
it
value for each
it
character?
does not, and so that's why I
Oh.
think I want to go to the
Mhm.
char array instead. Um, is I think gonna give me the foundation that I want. So here's an interesting thing that we actually mentioned earlier is this extension function. So char, so the string that I'm using is Java's char, but
Yes.
Kotlin has added new functionality to string, and one of the pieces of functionality that is added is this new function called toChar_array. And so you can see when I control hover on that toChar_array, it's actually showing me that this is an extension function on string that that Kotlin has added to string. So this is the extension function here, which is defined in our package kotlin.text. So that's not an out-of-the-box JVM based method. It just has been enriched
An
by
extension,
giving it
yes.
an extension method, extension
Amazing.
function. Yeah. Okay, so then our task is to then iterate through these and print each one with the
Yes.
index. So let's, so I think if I just do the normal one for each, you'll see that the method definition on for each is only going to give me a char, but there is another one for each indexed, and for each indexed
That's
gives
what we are
me,
looking for, yes.
that's what we were looking for. So let's do our for each indexed, and then our index item, we're just going to call I and our C char. And then we get to provide the implementation here. So my implementation is going to be print, and we'll do our string interpolation in Kotlin, which is allows us to inject values into our string. And so I'll do the $I, so that'll give us our index, and then the $C. So I think that that's going to get us to what we want. Let's actually put this over here in
Yes.
our, oops, and
Let's run it.
run this thing and see what happens.
And it
There we
does
go.
work.
Yeah.
So I have two questions for you. And this is very interesting. So first, Kotlin being based on Java, and Java having strings encoded internally in memory as 2 bytes per character. That's Unicode 16 or something like that. That means that Unicode 16 handling most of the popular characters of the whole world. It should also work for traditionally multi-byte characters like French accent things. Would you be able to write or to copy paste some French text in Planet
Yeah.
just to see if it works?
Where's a good place to get some French text?
So in the idiom, actually, you have other
Ah,
implementation links to the Go version. For example, I
fantastic.
wrote the Go version and I
Ah,
linked it to the Go
okay.
playground, so you can find it.
Okay.
Not the
Let's
timeout one, the other
go
one.
to Go. Oh, sorry. Yep, went to the wrong one. This one.
Yes, this
And
one.
then let's go check out the Go version.
And in the demo, you will find some French letters.
Ah, fantastic.
Resume. Oh, it's even an English word, but it comes from French, I'm sure.
That's right. I think so. I think so. Okay, let's paste a resume in there. And then what we're hoping is that the E and the, I guess, yep,
Will
both
count
E's.
as just
Yep,
one.
just one.
Yes,
Okay.
that's
All
what we're
right. Let's,
hoping for.
fingers crossed. Let's see what we get. Yes.
It works just fine. Congrats.
Fantastic. Yeah, and so
Yes,
I'm guessing that the toChar_array, if we look into that method, there's probably some way to override that UTF-8 or whatever, UTF-16 that's being used there.
maybe not,
Into,
because it's not bytes, it's just strings and
mm,
characters. So it just
right.
returns the actual characters.
Yep. Yep.
We are
Cool.
not
You can.
actually encoding or decoding anything here.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. So we can
That's interesting.
actually
So there
create the snippet.
there is actually a toChar_array in Java that
Yes.
is doing the
Oh,
conversion there. So that's
that's interesting. I have no idea
this is I
why
think standard
there would
Java
be a.
library.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
okay.
a standard Java library string. Um, and then so Kotlin is just actually calling that, but then what it's returning is a char array instead of the primitive array. So in Java, you'll see that it returns this primitive array,
Yes.
and Kotlin doesn't have primitives, which is one of the nice things about the language. And so it is giving us, instead of that primitive char array, it's giving us a actual char array, a class char array. So
Okay, but
yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong. This object of type char is already 2 bytes long, so it's plenty enough to hold any character, including the ones in a resume. We
Yep.
we're not talking about the same char as in C++, for example, where
That's
one char is basically 1 byte, but that's not the case here.
Yeah, char, it comes from the JVM, it comes from the JDK. Well, actually, they've got their, no, maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe char comes from
It's
Kotlin.
not a 1-1
So,
mapping?
is there? I sometimes forget what is in Java and what is in Kotlin, but it looks like in the case of, it looks like there is not a char in Java. But I thought there was, but maybe I'm wrong about that. But this char
sure
actually does come from Kotlin. So yeah, interesting. This is the Kotlin char. So yeah. So anyways, I've got some
we
things to
have
explore
everything
more
we
there.
need to create a new snippet in programming idioms.
Yes. Okay, here we go. So our code that we're going to paste in. Let's go take a look at your example here. Do you provide in this example? It doesn't look like you provide a
Just
string
the
to
bare
start
minimum.
with. So for ours,
that would be a one-liner actually in our case.
Yeah. So for our code, you know
My
what? One
next
thing
question,
I want to check real quick is, do we
Mhm.
even need the 2-chart array, or is there a for each indexed right on string? And I
That
just
would be
want to check and
interesting.
see if that is actually there, because it may actually just be there. It looks like
Yeah,
it
we
looks like
can also
Kotlin
try in
does
the
just
playground.
yeah. Let's go give that a try. So
That would be
it's even more
great because
concise.
I love conciseness.
Me
It does
too.
work. Wow,
Okay.
I'm impressed.
Okay.
For such a small function, would you say it's idiomatic to have the body on the same line?
I think so. I think
Yeah.
for well, let's see, because the other option would be
Yeah.
like that.
So
I think
which
that
one is
looks a little.
best?
I think that looks a little cleaner. Let's
Mm-hmm.
go with that.
Okay,
Okay,
cool.
and then we're gonna have our link here. Let's do this for our.
No, let's call
example.
it S
Yeah,
because we have
you
this
want to assign it?
this
True.
convention
Yep.
inside the website, so
Good
it's
point.
better if it sticks to the variable names.
I like that. Yeah. And then we'll format it how we are doing it in the example
yes,
there.
that's right.
Okay. Make sure that
Let's run it.
still
Yeah, make
works.
sure.
Looks
It
good.
does.
Okay.
That
Copy
is
the
really
link.
good. Thank you, James.
Okay. And our runnable demo link is that one.
And we can save.
And save. Fantastic.
So a subsequent question would be.
You know what? I didn't print the line exactly as it said here. So let's go fix that.
Yes, we can edit. Yes. No,
So
not this button. Just go back one.
this one.
This one, yes.
Yeah. So let's go fix it so that it prints it in the way that char $I is $C. Okay. And then I will, do you know, in the Kotlin playground, does it give me a new URL if I update this? Probably, huh?
Oh, I'm pretty sure it will generate a new one, yes.
So we'll go update that too. Okay, let's make sure that still works. Char 0 is, yeah. Okay, great.
Looks good.
I'm going to copy that link and update it here. Okay, and that all looks right?
So you need an edit summary.
Match description. Okay.
Perfect.
Okay, how's that look?
Okay, so this is really good, and I have two subsequent questions for this snippet. First, do you think we need any import statement to do that in Kotlin?
No,
We don't?
just,
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
just out of the box.
And the last question is, shall we find for each index in the official documentation and add a link?
We should do that. Yeah, let's go find that. So Kotlin string for each indexed. We should be able to find, there it is. I think this is going to, yeah, so, okay, you can see that, oh, this is, so I think that there's, oh, this will be interesting to see how this is actually implemented. But I think that for each indexed is on, that we're using is actually on char array.
Yes.
But there's some way that strings in Kotlin are
Implements
actually,
char array, maybe?
yeah, something along those lines. And we could, I'm gonna skip back here to IntelliJ to experiment a little bit. But I think that, like, if we try to type that string as a char array, what's it gonna tell us?
Oh, it says no.
No, see, a string is not a char array. Okay,
We
so
can't say
then,
it is a char array, but it somehow contains one.
there's also a char
Yeah, char
sequence.
sequence. So maybe that's the
So
one where,
what is
yeah,
a char sequence?
it's like in Java, I think. It's an interface.
So let's see if we say this is a char sequence.
Sequence? It is, I think,
Yep.
yes.
So a string in Kotlin is also a char sequence.
Yeah.
And char sequence has the for each indexed method on it. So that does mean that we should be able to find, well, okay, here, oh, so
the
there should be an extension
documentation
method. Yeah, so do we see if a char sequence here? We don't.
We don't. How
Yes.
comes?
So let's go look for Kotlin char sequence. And oh, actually, it's going to be char sequence for each indexed.
Yes.
Let's see what we can find here. So I think it's, there's the extension method that we're using. And that's what we link the docs to. But there we go. Char sequence for each indexed is what we're seeing and what we're using.
Performs a given action. Yes, that's what we've been doing.
And this one does, well, let's see if for each, oh, there is another link to the same thing.
Is it not the same?
Yeah, I don't know why this is in two places, why this is documented in two places. This is the actual doc for char sequence, and this is
if you click on the method, maybe it just links there.
Let's see. Click. Yes.
Yeah, it's the same. Okay, let's take this one.
Yep. So I guess the documentation pulls in the extension methods to the documentation that we were looking. So if we go to the docs for char sequence, we also get all the docs, and it's even labeled here, extension property. Here's the extension properties, and here's the extension functions. And so in the extension, so this is, the docs are actually then aggregating all the extension functions that are in the standard library into the docs for this thing. Because remember in IntelliJ, when we looked at char sequence, we see there's only 3 things on here, but there's a lot more in the docs. So
yeah,
I'm learning some new things here. So this
I'm learning a lot. I love it.
Okay, let's go find our
not this one.
Which tab was it? This tab.
And you click edit on the right.
Okay, and let's go add in the documentation URL.
Yeah.
And why we are adding the doc link. Okay. And save. Is that good? Okay.
Here we are.
There we are. Okay.
Well, what did we do today? We added documentation links, demo links to the playgrounds. We even created a snippet that was missing. That's everything that the backlog page is about. And also we created some existing snippet and we made it more concise because we are allowed to edit all of the contents. That was really, really cool. Thank you so much, James.
Yeah, no, that's super fun. I learned a lot too.
So don't hesitate to share this video with your Kotlin friends, just in case some of them would like to contribute too.
Yes, definitely. It'd be great to get all of the missing idioms covered, because we're we're missing what, about 40, almost 70 idioms are missing Kotlin implementations. So
No, actually, missing for 200 of them. So we're
oh
still
God,
missing a
I
lot.
read that wrong.
Yes.
We're missing a lot. All right, Kotlin people, we've got some work to do.
Yeah, let's do this together. Now, with everything I learned today, I might even be able to contribute some of them myself.
Yeah, good.
Okay, thank you so much, James, and see you soon.
Thanks so much for having me.
Goodbye.
Bye.